This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
All right, I'd like to call to order the February 12th Conservation Commission meeting. This meeting will be conducted in person and remotely online to the greatest extent possible. Should an interruption occur in which the online meeting ends abruptly, both the in-person and online meetings will not be restarted, and all agenda items will be automatically continued to the next scheduled meeting. And you have something else?
Yeah, so the next scheduled meeting is February 26th. And like you said, if anything happens for the online meeting, everything's going to be continued to February 26th meeting, and we won't restart the meeting. Basically, all the people who have joined online are muted and can't turn on their cameras or do anything like that until we make you a co-host. And so if you have to communicate with us, you can use the raise hand function down at the bottom of your screen there. And then the last thing is just don't use the chat because it's not private and it's going to be generated into a transcript afterwards. So something to keep in mind. And that's really the quick version of my comments. So I would request that the commission consider taking item 8P.
Are there any public concerns or non-agenda?
Oh, yeah.
You don't have any of that, right?
Nope, I don't.
Right, so
yeah.
We have no public hearings. And the request is to take 9B out of order.
It'd be 8P.
8P?
Mm-hmm.
Right, 8P, okay.
Yes.
So can I have a motion to take
Motion
8P?
to take 8P out of order.
And a second. Second it. And roll call, Commissioner Carr.
Aye.
August. Weeks. Aye. All right, motion carries. All right, so Deacon Solo, is someone here online to talk about that?
Yeah, hold on. Let me make sure that they're co-hosts real quick. Hi, Peter and Matthew. You should be able to turn your camera on if you want to and unmute yourselves. Share your screen. I'm going to stop sharing here in a second.
I look to recuse myself for item 8.
Sure.
Okay, let me just make a note of that.
So does that mean we don't have a quorum?
Well, that's the thing. You don't necessarily have to take any action. So I don't know that we need a quorum to vote. We just can't vote, I think. I don't think we can.
We just did.
Well, on taking this item,
Yeah.
but not on the matter that she's recused herself for, I think, is how I'm interpreting it. But, yeah, I guess, I don't know if John, if they're here for this item too as a representative, or it's just you, Pete, and Matthew.
Yeah, I think it's just the two of us, myself and Peter.
Okay. But yeah, I guess if you're ready, basically just as a quick preamble, you guys submitted a plan for dealing with the issue of the ponding water at 50 Florence Road near the last array, as it were, near the last crossing there. So if you guys want to, you should be able to share your screen if you want. Otherwise, I have a copy of the plan. I can share my screen that way, whichever you prefer, and then you can explain.
Yeah, Matt, you wanna pull up the plan that we talked about or that we submitted to Cassie here?
Yes, give me just a minute here and I'll pull it up, but go ahead and you can talk through.
Yeah. So basically, we went out to site with Cassie last month, and we kind of came through. We went through a couple of different options internally. I met with the civil team to talk with them about what the options were, what they thought was the best course of action, and what they, as far as best practices, means and methods. We went through all of that with them. We have the contract with GI is back in place. There's a couple of they're going back and forth with some wording that they wanted to have added into the new agreement, which I don't know what had changed from the original to the new one, but that's back in place. So they'll be resuming. I sent Cassie the report this week or for last week rather. And I'm hoping that this week GEI should be back basically back in the fold to continue the reporting. Now that being said, and Matt will also talk about this in a little bit. We would like to just find out what the process is to apply for the winter reporting since the site is stable. The only issue that we have is a few crossing spots that we identified with Cassie that have been, we've been working with them throughout the entire process. But we wanted to find out what we can do for the winter reporting to go down from, I think it goes down to monthly reporting and or storms of specific whatever you guys determine. So I'll have Matt talk about that when he gets done with his presentation on what we have for the option. But basically we're going to probably we would prefer to have it we would prefer to do the work where it just naturally dries out and we don't have to actually pump it out. But if it turns out that we do have to do that, we'll submit to Cassie, how we're going to dewater that area and what BMPs we're going to use to do that and how it will be monitored, however long it takes to get it out. When we were there last time, a few weeks ago, it was quite a bit less than what it had been in the past. So hopefully, we get some dry weather. I know we got a storm coming tonight, but I don't know, how much we're going to get or where you guys look like you might be a little bit out of the belt. So it might not be quite as bad as what I'm going to get here, but this is the plan. I don't know if can you guys see what Matt just put up on the screen here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to turn this up a little bit. So Matt, if you want to just go through with them and kind of explain what we have here and what our general plan is.
Okay, will do. The intention on trying to dewater this site effectively and efficiently without creating more problem, we're going to take this natural swell that comes in off site. As you can see, the contour lines, take this natural swell and kind of reroute it so that these green arrows are existing discharge. So ponding is all in this area here. And we're going to try to take that ponding and that water, run it through a riprap inside of our fence line and try to push out the water off site, basically filtered through that riprap and filtered through all the grass and vegetation through this 100-year floodplain. The intention is to, get this water out of here so it's not standing, it's not creating insect issues and other problems, and also allows for better growth on the vegetation for the management of the property. Along those same lines, we got to build up a berm around our equipment to aid in pushing that water back into this area so that it follows its natural flow, so it can get off site naturally as it was intended to do over time.
Yeah, Matt, I just wanted to point out, it looks like your cursor is about, you're off for the site area where your cursor is actually showing.
Wow,
okay. Yeah, if you guys can see where the green arrows are kind of coming down, the ponding area is about, it starts about where those green arrows are, and it moves back toward the middle of the array in that upper right-hand corner where the red ref cloud box is. In the lower part of this picture here, where you have the orange triangle looking thing that Matt's on now, that's the natural, we've got water that's coming into the site from out of the site. And then it tends to pool where the top of that triangle is and those green arrows are. And it is currently running in front on the north side of that pad. So what we're going to do is now the other area where the civil contractor added fill or lost some of the fill was behind to the south part of that pad. And we're going to remove that, add some fortification to that pad to berm up, just as protection, not as necessarily diversion, but the natural swale is going to run from that lower green arrow and above the orange triangle there and angle back to that back side of that pad. And so it moves it away from our equipment. It moves it away from the where it says soil berm around equipment pad. There's a natural a water access or whatever the farmer had created, back in the days there, where water, it's a little river right there, basically outside of our site that the water eventually makes its way into. Now, if we dewater to this back area where it says, you see where there's, on the lower right-hand corner outside of our site, you see the swampy area. This water will eventually filtrate toward that and make its way into that natural water avenue there. But it does the contour in the site, inside of our limit of work, does want to push that water back to that southwest area behind our pad. So, and then the riprap would be placed between, if it's needed, at the outlet of the where the swale is, and or along behind where our equipment pad is, if we need to add any check dams or riprap to that area, just to the west of that pad, between the pad and the gate, our entrance gate, we would do that as well. But I don't think that's necessarily going to be needed. So.
Now, Cassie, the drawings we're looking at here are different than what he's got on the screen there a little bit.
Yeah, have you guys updated them since you last emailed me?
Yeah, Matt might have, we amended it slightly just because it was a little bit, this drawing is a little more, accurate to where the flow is and to where the swale kind of naturally is. The swale basically follows where the panel break is in there that you can see. And so we adjust, I thought we had sent you, we might've sent you the wrong version, Cassie, but we did change this slightly from what you guys are looking at, probably. I don't know. Cassie, can you pop up what you have?
Yeah, it's this one right here.
Yep, I can do that, you guys. Hold on a second. Let's see. So this is dated, I got this on the 8th. The letter that accompanies it is from the 2nd. And then, the plan up here's, I'm going to share my screen here in a second. Hold on.
Yep.
Looks like it was dated kind of a while ago. So hold on. But I received it on the 8th of this month.
Yeah. The difference is that
Just from September 2021. But
that water, when Matt and I originally had talked, this was just this was his initial design. And once we actually talked after, having a look at this, we moved that check dam that's in the middle. We moved that down to the southwest, as we want that water to run away. We don't want the water to run to the pad and then go around it. We want it to miss the pad and essentially drain itself out through this lower area in the southwest corner. There is a pretty substantial field. There's probably 75 to 100 yards outside of our limit of work before you get to that water area, where on the north side of our pad, we walked through the woods with Cassie. On the very north side of the pad by our entrance, that stream area is probably, I don't know, 25 or 30 yards outside of our limit of work. So we wanted the water to naturally flow away from our equipment and into the more open area, so that it filtrates out, or naturally just filtrates itself into wherever it does end up, whether it's evaporation or percolation, or it would never I can't see how it could ever possibly maintain a pond situation all the way through that site. It's pretty substantial. It's fully vegetated, so I don't think there would ever be any issue there.
So Cassie, you were on site, so if they move that riprap to the southwest, is that in a good place? Is that in a good location?
So we can look at the pictures,
Sure.
But there's no riprap there right now.
No.
Yeah.
But
So
if that's where the location is going to be, is that really going to solve the problem?
well, I guess that would be what I would hope, that the engineer has determined that through what they're showing. I guess my question is if where the grading is proposed, is it within that red triangle / polygon there, or that's
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
but this is the old plan that we're looking at right now.
Yeah,
So
correct.
we should switch back to you guys sharing your
So that's the
screen.
new one.
But yeah, basically that area along where it says LOC is like the fence, the existing fence. And it's
Mhm.
just kind of like an open fields area. It's pretty flat. So in theory, I would think it could work, but
Yeah, it would be very minimal. I mean, and to Matt's point earlier, the plan that was proposed last fall required or suggested cut and fill activity from our pad to about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It was about 10 or 15 rows to the east. So there was a substantial amount of operation work in there. There's glass already the site is already built, obviously. So first and foremost, we want to alleviate the pooling, as that doesn't work for anybody. But then we want to get it to flow where it naturally wants to go, and obviously dissipate before it becomes any sort of. There would be, as the proposal that we're suggesting is the most minimal impact as far as civil work to the site, and then the area where they lost a pile of fill and raised the elevation, which kind of prevents this natural flow to happen, which is essentially why we're having that water kind of holding up in the area that it is. But what we're talking about, I think it is the most effective way to get the water to flow where it naturally wants to go with the least amount of civil impact that we could possibly have.
So you said there's 75 yards between that southwest corner and the wetland that's down in the lower left?
At the bottom of our pad, like if you look at the very south part of our pad, you can see that there's like an angle of that gray area. I think that's the 100-foot. That might be I can't tell where the 100-foot buffer is on this picture, but as you see that gray area to the adjacent to our pad, it kind of runs on an angle. So as you get further away from our limit of work, that pond, that river itself runs away from our site. So the further south you get from our corner limit of work, where right now you see that riprap, that blue riprap, at that point that stream is probably 100 or 125 yards away. It's off way in the back there to the west. Whereas up by our pad and our gate, when you go through our gate on that road, you run over that, you go over that little waterway, probably 20 or 30 yards, from the entrance of our gate. Whereas in the back, it's a good, it's 3 times that distance. So there's quite a substantial amount of space. I might have even taken a picture. I believe I took a picture when we were there, but it might take me a few minutes to find it. But just to kind of show, so I could, if we had that question come up, we could talk about how much space we actually did have. Let me see if I can find it, if I do have it. But go ahead and continue with whatever questions you guys have while I'm looking for this.
So is the regrading going to cause more of a slope in that corner toward?
No. What we're basically going to do is we're just going to create a very minor swale. Yeah, Matt can show you. It would be very, whatever the minimal depth we would need to create the water to flow through, to create a daylight there. Here's my pictures.
Yeah, it's a typical diversion ditch that's typically used in temporary aspects, but we're looking to make it more of a permanent diversion ditch that runs between our structural piles. That way we don't, create a problem for ourselves. It's more than likely not going to be this wide and not this deep. We're not going to there may be 1 or 2 sections that might get 24 inches, but for the most part, we're looking at about a half-inch drop over 50 feet.
Oh, okay.
That'll allow water to flow slowly off-site.
Yeah.
And do you have to do you have to take your panels out to do
No.
that?
No, but we will have to create, to some degree, we'll have to berm up, some of the material that comes out of the bottom of the swale will go to the leeward side of the swale to help kind of also channel that water to where we want it to go. So we're talking about minimal, as Matt said, minimal depth, whatever's needed to get the flow rate to be positive out of the site. And yes, there will need to be work done under where our panels set up are where they are, but that's our means and methods for our civil contractor to obviously excavate without doing damage to the system that's in place. So, underneath the site, there's they've got small machines that they can get in pretty tight, pretty close to coming in from either side of the row. They can come in from the east side and then loop around from the west side and do what they got to do. But most of the work they can do, they have smaller machines that they can get in there and do the work with, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem.
Yeah, with all due respect to your equipment, my concern was more about erosion, so.
What do you mean?
Well, if you're digging around the panels, if you're digging up the earth a lot and disturbing the stabilized.
It'll be reseeded, and there will be some type of armament put on top of that seed to establish that growth. We're going to use that blend that's approved already, which will include some extra like winter spring rye to speed up that erosion and protection process.
Yep.
And then go with the permanent seeding at the same time. Whether we're using a hydro seed to arm or we're using
like a hay mulch,
erosion control blankets.
Yeah.
One way or the other, we're going to armor that soil surface, protect the erosion.
Yeah, and if we need to add any particular BMPs in the process of this work and we still have, this is the other thing, we still have the full site not silt sock, but what am I like the
Silt fencing.
Yeah, the silt fencing is all still in place. There is no silt sock in that particular area around the formation, but if we need to add any BMPs, any kind of erosion control, silt socks, hay bales, or straw bales, whatever we need, we can do that. But that would be obviously, dictated by the civil contractor, and we'll be out monitoring this work. When this work's going on, I'll be present while this is happening. Or Matt will be up if Matt decides to make the trip up. One of us will be there to monitor and manage any of the construction process that goes on, which shouldn't be more than a week. I talked to the civil guys about it, and they said, 4 or 5 days worth of work, they should be able to have everything wrapped up here. So we're not talking about anything major, no substantial construction, no, there's not going to be, tons of construction activity. We're talking about probably 2 guys, a small excavator, or maybe a bobcat, probably be about all the equipment that would be involved here.
Any other questions? Not for me, no.
So basically, what is before the commission essentially is a request for a minor change to what was designed, right? And this is a process that's necessary because when they come for certificate of compliance, they need to show that if there are changes, they were accounted for. But what the commission needs to consider is, will this project, basically the policy that DEP advises that conservation commissions use when considering changes, is will this change result in increased impacts to jurisdictional areas, in this instance, the 100-foot buffer zone or the streams or whatever? And then if it won't, or will it just change the project substantially enough? Like the example that's usually given, it goes from being a a single family home to a Walmart or something. But obviously that's an extreme example. But those are kind of the big pieces that they want the commission to consider.
Are we going to need a motion to be able to move that along? It seems like we might need a motion to move that along.
Right.
We do not have a quorum tonight.
And do we have to add any conditions, like the
Typically,
erosion blankets?
We would add conditions.
yeah. So I think that would be something that, because I can speak to whether or not it sounds like it's going to reach that threshold of not being able to be approved because it's going to increase impacts to jurisdictional areas, but I can't really speak to the engineering / whatever conditions you guys would want to include and how you feel about the erosion controls and things like that. So one thing that Pete and Matt that you might not realize is that we have 2 commissioners who aren't here tonight, and they have a lot of the expertise and experience in stormwater, things like this. So the commission might want to consider getting their opinion.
I think so.
And then also one of the commissioners who is here, who's helping us achieve a quorum, has to recuse herself for this item as a nearby abutter, so they can't vote on it tonight either way.
Okay.
Which I didn't find out that one of the commissioners wasn't going to be here until today. But
Do we need to wait for to get to a determination here? Do we have to wait to have like a quorum for the full meeting, or is this something that could happen? Could an email come out Thursday next week, or is this something where we have to wait till next month to be able to get into?
The next meeting is scheduled for February 26th. Next month. But the commission also we didn't receive this most recent plan in advance. So I don't know if the commission also for that reason would want to be able to have more time to look at it. I mean, I appreciate you explaining it today. But
And
I don't
if
know.
Julie came out and said next week, I'm okay with it, then, she
Sure.
could have you send an email saying to go forward, but.
Right,
I
yep.
would rather have
Okay.
have Julie be the one who makes that decision, because she is the real chair of the commission.
Yeah, I would just like to again reiterate that, what we're suggesting is, there's a natural flow where that water would have gone. And I think that probably some of the fill that they added behind our pad area, and or unforeseen, conditions that weren't exactly as they were per the plan. It's actually quite a minor fix to do this work. We're not talking about major construction or major civil work, or I certainly don't believe we're talking about any impact outside of the ordinary that would happen, with or without us being there, so, and hopefully our solution is like we pointed out, the least, environmental impact that we could do to correct this issue. So.
And this material would be outside the 100-year floodplain?
Matt,
It'll be inside of our site.
But
All material that we're moving is inside the LOD.
But is it in the 100-year floodplain?
I believe that 100-year floodplain is halfway into that field outside of our limit of work. I don't think we're inside of that 100-year floodplain at all in our limit of work.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any indication that that's all, but that's okay.
I guess maybe my question would be, it looks like on the plan that you were showing on your screen that if the red polygon is where the grading is to occur, that grading was going to occur outside of the limit of work.
Yeah.
I was misinterpreting that, but the red polygon certainly was going outside of the LOC line. So that
I think that was just more of a
Indicating the water flow.
exactly
Indicating where that low swell is.
right. That wasn't to indicate that we would like the work, even if we did the work to the north part of the pad. Any work that we would be doing at all to do this, like the fix that we had or the not the fix, but the option that was proposed last fall, none of the options that we're talking about are operating even within the 100-foot buffer zone. So everything that we're talking about doing is inside of our limit of work and not into that 100-foot buffer zone. So
the red polygon does not indicate where the grading is occurring.
no, it's really meant more to just show where the flow of water is coming into and going where it wants to go to. And then, I mean, we can provide, it's a little bit, without going out and shooting all of these, shooting every, I mean, we're going to have, we can take a total station and get, any changes that would be, whatever needs to happen as far as documentation we can provide, but we're basically talking about a 6 to 8 foot, probably natural, more of a, what would look more like a natural swale, a small swale to just channel that water from where it's currently pooling in the middle of the site and channeling it back to that southwest corner and letting it, as Matt said, it'll be a fully stabilized swale that will, hopefully absorb some of that water versus letting it run off site. So I think by the time it gets to the edge, and again, we've had the last 2 or 3 months has not been terrible with unusual water totals, but the last 5-6 months of last year we had absurd. We were getting sometimes a year's worth of rain in a month. So that site, it just wasn't able to drain out, and that, like we said, there's clay through there, so that it really doesn't drain. It just sits and holds that water, so it has to evaporate. So
Can I make a suggestion?
sure.
You know how, like in this picture, the green arrows are just arrows, but the red arrows are inside of the polygon. Would you redraw this so that the polygon is actually the
Area
limit
disturbance.
of work, the area of disturbance, and the red arrows can go wherever you want.
Yeah, surely.
But that the polygon itself only show the limit of work.
Yeah, I mean, Matt, if you guys noticed, I don't know if you saw when Matt was, he can actually play around with that document, and we can get it to, we can basically change the orange area to have the to coincide with our limit of work. So
That would be clearer.
yeah. Yeah, I think this is more just of a visual to kind of show where we were trying to get it to flow to, but I think you can see this shows it within. Yeah, our limit of work is the little solid lines with the X through it. So, and then where it says LOC, you can see whether that's, so yeah, this is inside of, this is more like what you were asking about right here, if you can see that.
So
Now,
fix that, resubmit it, and then we'll show it to Julie and Dan. And
okay, I can go through in the morning with Matt. We can clean this up, and if you guys would like, we can also add some more detail to the Ref Cloud notes if that would be helpful. Or I'm also happy to have a conversation with whoever the other member is. Is it just one other or two other that are not here tonight?
Two.
It's 2.
Okay. If you'd like, I'd be happy to. I could do, myself and Matt could do a quick call with them if they have questions this week, and then whatever you guys need, just let us know.
All right, so we don't need to continue this to another meeting because it's not a public hearing.
It's going to stay on the agenda because it's an active project. So you don't have to vote to continue or anything like that. But just generally, it sounds like you guys are making a determination that they're
We'll
not
defer to
making
the
a,
next
yeah.
meeting, yes. So
Yeah.
We'll make a decision tonight.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I guess, Pete, for my part, if you guys can send me that updated plan, maybe explaining that, like, the red polygon is where the grading is happening and how much you expect and things like that. And then I will share that to all the commissioners. And if I get preliminary comments, I will share it to them. But
Yeah, there was a question I had with your notes. I noticed that you had a question about it, which I actually have. My notes was a question mark next to your question to see what you were talking about. So now I see.
wait, what? Sorry.
Your question, you had a couple of things that you said we're going to probably have some questions that you'd asked about the detail in the red clip area within the 100-foot buffer.
Yeah, because
We don't have any work going on in the buffer, so I wasn't sure what you were asking about. So, but I see that it's a little confusing. So we'll get that squared away.
Yeah, no, thank you. That was, for the plan that you originally sent me, I sent them preliminary notes saying, like, be prepared to explain where the grading is happening. I thought the red polygon was where the grading is happening. So that's good to know. But visual representation of that will be important. But yeah, so we can communicate going forward. And then, I guess that's where
I guess we're done for now.
Yeah, go back out on the 26th then.
Okay.
And then the monthly reporting, you want a letter requesting the monthly reporting until we start?
Let's decide that at the next meeting also.
the way the commission typically does suspended reporting is that you still have to send a report after rain events of 0.25 inches or more.
Yep.
But otherwise, we don't typically have monthly reporting either. I mean,
Right.
the commission can make a determination of what they want to have in there. You can say, no, sorry, you have to keep doing the reporting at the full level once a week and after these rain events, or you can say just after the rain events. Or
But
rain
do they
events
fill
monthly.
out some form?
There's not a form. I would just get a request. And my notes are, I sent an email to them kind of explaining when I did the site visit, there was no immediate violations that need to be like cleaned up of like sediment anywhere. But there were some areas where there were some fixes. If you guys remember, I don't know if you remember what was in the email, but I want to confirm that those were done before. But then also during this work,
Right.
I know the commission would be interested in having the suspended reporting. That's not typically what we do. If there's like new disturbance happening, and then the reporting goes back to the weekly.
Probably should.
Yeah. So but then, if that's not going to happen until like the springtime, then maybe it would make sense to do once I can confirm that those other little fixes have been done. So,
Are you going to schedule a site visit again before the next meeting, or?
Yeah, maybe that would be a good idea, just specifically to look at those things that I had asked about. We can do it right now.
Just so I'm clear, Cassie, those are just in the area in between the sites, right? Not they're at the water crossings on the road in between.
Yeah. It was really just one of the crossings had the rotting.
The one closest, the one down near the other where this area where this issue is.
Yeah, it's like it's secured. There's fencing in front of it, but then there's rotting bales threatening the silt fencing beyond.
Yeah.
Just leaning against it. I was hoping to get those cleared out. And
Scheduling a site visit this week may not be a real option.
Oh yeah, if it's snowing. So
yeah, I would say with this, we'll see what this snowstorm turns out to do, but it looks like you guys are in that 4 to 8 inch range maybe. But if it doesn't get too bad, or if we have 3 days after that where it's 45, we can probably get the guys out there beginning of next week to fortify the stuff inside the roadway, which is in between the site, and then but yeah, we should certainly be able to get that fixed before your next meeting for sure. So.
All right.
Well, now we're down to 2.
Oh,
What was that?
the snow forecast is potentially, but
I think it looks like it might kind of go below you guys. You might not get hit too bad. So it seems like no matter what happens, we're getting hit worse every single time they talk about it. So.
Right. Okay, cool. So yeah, maybe we can talk tomorrow and we can try to schedule a site visit or talk a little bit about that. But
you guys have any other questions for us, or?
No, I think we're set. I'm good.
Okay. Do we? Is it okay if we drop off here, or?
Well, yep.
Thank
for your
you.
time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Have a good one, you guys.
Take care.
okay, so I would request now that the commission consider taking item 9B. Out of agenda
Can I get a motion to take item 9B out of order?
Motion to take 9B out of order.
A second.
Second.
Roll call votes. Commissioner Carr,
Aye.
August,
Aye.
and Commissioner Weeks.
Aye.
The motion passes.
This is Lothrop?
Nope, it's going to be 385, 9B, 9B, yeah.
9B.
Pestilential.
Yes.
How are you?
Yes, indeed. That would be. Or I would be the representative.
All right.
Should I come to the table?
Yeah, however you want to do it, you can come up, you can stay there, whatever, yeah.
Drinks them. Want to tell
How's your candy?
Thank you. Please. Thank you so much for agreeing to move me up the agenda and consider our proposal. As some of you may know, Kestrel is in the process of purchasing and conserving a 43-acre property, 385 Main Street, which we hope to accomplish this year. We will be placing a conservation restriction on those 43 acres. That is a requirement from one of our funding sources, a conservation partnership grant from the state. Right now, Mass Audubon has agreed to be the holder of that conservation restriction, but I'm here to ask if the Conservation Commission would consider being a co-holder on it. And I have a couple reasons for that. Number one, just kind of conceptually in terms of symmetry, this is part of a 53-acre property, and we are working with an affordable housing group, as you may have heard, called the Community Builders, which will be purchasing that 10 or 11-acre parcel. And the city will be holding a permanent housing restriction on those 10 or 7 acres, or those 10 or 11 acres. having the dual restrictions, each held by city agencies, just I think is a concept that's
Okay.
nice. It keeps an active partnership between the project and the city, which I think would be, a good way to present the project moving forward. The project is really about partnerships, making the whole thing happen. The other aspect of it is if the city holds property interests on the conservation land, that opens up the possibility in the future, if the city ever wanted to be involved in funding any projects on the land, to be able to use CPA funds.
Okay.
You can only do that if there's
Sure.
a property interest, and the CR counts.
Yep.
Even being a co-holder on the CR counts on that. But again, it's I think a fantastic project. We brought it before the commission before for the ORAD, which is the last page in that packet, which we have on file. Thank you so much for working with us on that. So basically, the front page shows the basic breakdown of the parcels, the conservation parcel and the housing parcel. The second page I just threw in there to show some of the conservation values for habitat outside the biomap. You can see it's a good amount of biomap and habitat on the property, critical natural landscape and core habitat right along the Manhan. It's a great buffer along the Manhan. It connects with two other conservation areas, Pomeroy Meadow, which is Pescama Conservation Trust area, as well as the Whittemore Conservation Area, which is this town of Southampton Conservation Area right across the river. So we're building on this big block of riparian conservation land along the water. When I had talked with Cassie about this idea originally, she had expressed a concern, which I completely understand, which is capacity, particularly for something like monitoring a conservation restriction, and wanted to be aware of that. I proposed to Cassie at that point that we could limit the responsibilities of the Concom. I'm not exactly sure what the best mechanism to do that would be. It may, and it's really would be up to the Concom as well. It could be as simple as writing into the baseline report for the CR, just laying out the responsibilities of all the parties, and Mass Audubon would take on the role saying we are responsible for the annual monitoring, not the city, if that's what you wanted. If it was any other, so I mean, I guess the responsibilities in the CR would fall into a couple big categories. One would be annual monitoring, which really isn't addressed in the CR so much. It's more kind of a functional thing that's in the baseline delineation report, based on documentation report. There are approvals, which both of the holders of the CR, that is in the CR, and then there's enforcement. So, I mean, technically, at minimum, I would imagine you would want a right of enforcement for the CR. I don't know, I'd have to see if, you didn't want to be involved with any approvals, have to see how it would work that in. But again, if it was just, what was that?
Approvals of what?
So if the CR says, with approval of the grantee, and you were one of the two grantees, we are allowed to construct a gazebo of the so-and-so dimensions or create a new trail. Those are pretty common, in the CR. So, I mean, you might want to be involved in those or not. You might just want the legal right to get in at the end. Or again, it might just be that you don't want to have responsibility of monitoring that. I think that would be the simplest thing to write in, because again, it would just be the baseline. And everyone signs the baseline, so that would be, the document that's recorded with the CR.
And would the Concom be making a financial investment too, or is the
No.
Mass Audubon going to pay?
No, there'd be no financial involvement.
Who's buying?
We are actually paying Mass Audubon to take the CR.
Oh, okay, so Kestrel's funding.
Yeah, we are funding, they need it's an endowment, it's actually, a fund basically that they set aside, to do their monitoring. To set aside some for a legal defense fund as well. So yeah, they will be set up, and they again are completely willing to be the primary CR holder. They've already agreed to that. It would just, again, it'd be nice to have the Concom as an active partner, to keep that city involvement going. And again, while we're not planning right now in asking the city for any funding for the conservation property to do anything, we keep that door open in the future. And if this becomes a really wonderful natural resource and open space setting for the community as we hope it will be. Again, the city wants to be involved in a community garden and trail repair or something like that, and a new kiosk, they could.
I was thinking more of the funding to purchase the development rights.
No, we actually have the funding for the conservation parcel pretty much lined up right now. The city has just agreed, as you probably have heard, through the recent city council vote to put $600,000 towards the housing site, to the purchase of the housing site, which is the reason why the city will be getting a restriction, a permanent housing restriction on those 10 acres.
Oh, can you just say something more about what is the housing restriction?
Sure. So again, if you look at the front page of the handout that I just gave you, so that is it's going to be carved off as a separate parcel of the site. We will not be purchasing that. Our housing partner will be, which is the community builders. Because CPA funding will be going towards the purchase of that site, it requires that the site be restricted in perpetuity for affordable housing, those 10 acres. So the city will be holding that restriction, which I have not dealt with those before, but I hear it's essentially like a CR, but it's for housing.
Okay.
So the city will already be holding a restriction for the housing, and there's a possibility for you also to hold a restriction for the conservation right next door to it.
Meaning that like the only development that can take place, instead of no development, it's just housing development.
The affordable housing. It has to be affordable housing development on that, yes. And the restriction for the conservation area would be fairly standard. It is a combination because it is an active agricultural site right now, and we'd like to keep that open. There will be structures allowed for both passive recreation and possibly agriculture. We want to leave it open to be the fields open, at least to be a community garden or a community farm. There's no plan for that right now, but that is one of the natural resource values. There are prime farmland soils there. So, and the communities in TCB have expressed interest in being able to grow things there and either supply food for their own members or even have a small farm stand in the future that'd be open to the public.
Can you just show, I know like off of Pomeroy, there's a meadow, and then there is a housing development there right now. It's not affordable housing. Where is that? Is it over here somewhere?
Yeah, that's a housing development right there. I forget the name of that street. And then this is True Heart Drive that comes up to the south and butts it right here. Then there's a Baptist church right around. It's right around in this area. I think it's right there. And then you get over into Southampton. You get to where the tractor supply is. Excuse me. Yeah. It's a really pretty site. I think being able to meet your community needs with housing and conservation is a pretty unique opportunity. It is pretty innovative. There are very few examples of this nationally going on, especially planned from the beginning. We're trying to really knit in the conservation area and the housing so they were designed together and work together to support one another. And ultimately, looking at the site, we had, a conceptual development done under current zoning. I think it came out to around 35 single-family, non-affordable houses if this didn't go through ultimately, which is not what your decision is here tonight, but we think it's a pretty good kind of trade-off to separate a few acres for a really, progressive, affordable housing community.
Well, the housing parcel looks to me mostly just open. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just a.
I mean, not that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's pretty and it does have value, but basically the conceptual plan, which I put it to the landscape architect to give us something that was realistic, it blew out just about the entire site well into the woods, right out to the riparian corridor. There'd be houses kind of on the fingers of land looking out over into the Manhattan. It made my heart
very, very easy to do that there.
Sadly, yes. I didn't know you could stack cul-de-sacs upon cul-de-sacs like that, but I guess you can. Right. So yes, again, I saw it as an opportunity, again, to expand kind of the partnership and to kind of keep the door open for interesting possibilities in the future. But it's completely up to you, and we can kind of look into what aspects you would be interested in or not in terms of your responsibilities as a co-holder on the CR.
Now, I don't think we've done anything quite like this before. I mean, the city has purchased land with Kestrel, like on the side of the mountain, to secure land up there to, keep it from being houses and things like that. But this is a little bit different, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think this is the first one that would be like a co-holder situation, like you described.
Yeah.
But in the past, like we did it for Reservation Road, there was a CR that the commission had to sign off on that. I don't know that we were the property owner, and maybe even Kestrel was the CR holder.
The CR
Yeah.
holder on that. You're the
Yeah.
property owner,
Yeah.
The Conservation Commission wasn't a holder or any of those.
Mhm. So yeah, I mean, I think
Different thing.
it's different, yeah. Or just like playing different roles in the same
Right.
establishment of CR's process. So, but yeah, I think it's, Mass Audubon is a typical person to do these kind of, they hold
Sure.
number of CRs is my understanding, and would be familiar with the work. It would make sense to me. And I think, what you were reaching towards, or what you were explaining earlier, Mark, was about capacity in terms of taking on a new CR where we would be the sole holders it's a capacity question for me in terms of like keeping up with the monitoring piece and even the approval piece. I mean, I think the approval piece, that's something that the commission potentially could be involved in that. Maybe it would make sense to be, but the enforcement piece is an important piece that we want to hold, where it's just like, we would just be able to use that if we felt it was necessary, but it's not necessarily like that capacity thing where we have to check on it every year that the monitoring holds. Because I don't want the commission to like fall behind on doing what we need to do just
Sure.
because of my hours or how it works out for me. So,
And you were
Yeah.
just saying to me earlier that you have like 10 CRs that you don't.
Yeah, I'd have to look at-
now,
I had to look at what, some of them we are the property owner, some of them we're the CR holder. It's like a mix of things, but there certainly are existing properties that the commission holds CRs for that we
And
are supposed to take care of.
monitoring them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing my best, but it's a lot. And so we've been working on a lot. So that is the main point of it. So, but that's my piece. I don't know if the commission probably could be in a position to vote tonight about it because we do have a quorum. I know
I
Julie,
think
the
it's
chair,
beyond our scope to vote on it tonight.
because the two commissioners
I
aren't
think we
here.
should Talk to our city planner and
Oh,
try to get an idea of what Jeff thinks. Because he probably has more experience in things like this than we do.
I mean, I've spoken with him about it. Generally, he's supportive.
I'm sure he is.
Yeah,
yes, but
he's
I don't
supportive.
understand what all the ins and outs could be.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So maybe what I can do is try to get like a letter from Jeff or something for the next meeting, or even have him come to like
Great to have him come.
tell you that. But
Yeah.
and then then we would most likely have a full commission and they could vote on it that way. But I don't know what your timelines are. I know you guys are there. Time is a factor, but
Time is a factor, but it really, I don't, so we need to close on the property, and that includes the CR by June 30th.
Okay.
By when?
June 30th of this year. Which seems far out, but it's not far out when you said that there's a 40-day permitting process for the housing that needs to go through that amount of time. I have put a CR in kind of as a placeholder for review to get the process started because it's been taking forever at the state. If you agreed, I think the easiest one to do would be just to put the responsibility for monitoring on Mass Audubon, because I think the rest of the CR would almost require no changes.
And you're gonna do this anyway, with or without us.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely, yeah.
It just sort of gives us a little bit of extra.
Yeah, no, absolutely,
Power.
absolutely. I think it would be kind of, the cherry on top of everything, kind of everyone working together in a way. But again, I do think if we proposed a modification of the CR in terms of taking away, the right of approval or something like that, that gets into kind of redrafting the CR a bit and the state kind of approving those changes. Can you have a grantee without that right? But again, if it was just the monitoring duties, I think that would be really simple, because that's not even in the CR. That would just be, we put together the baseline documentation report and we say, this is on Mass Audubon to do the annual monitoring and to report to the secondary grantee. And that's signed off on by everyone too. It's a document that's, goes along with the CR. So that would be super straightforward. That's just kind of my view of it.
Well, maybe that's the direction we should head in, but I think we should try to get Jeff Bag in here for the next meeting, or at least an opinion, so that we don't this is kind of something we've never done before, so that's why it's a little different for us.
Okay, yeah.
A question out of pure naivete, since I've been doing this for very long.
Go right ahead.
But the conservation parcel contains or is close to wetland resources that are, fully within our mandate. So there's nothing out of step between our mandate and our
But
participation.
we've already given that some approval, right?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah.
So we've already
So that's a yes.
We've already toured that property and given it a pre-approval for the delineations that occurred, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there will be potential other roles, one of which is not unusual at all. It's very common for conservation commissions to have a CR on a land trust owned property. And therefore, there may be, obviously we'd be trying to stay out of wetlands anyway, but, if there are trail work or any sort of, passive recreational structures, there is that kind of intersection that can happen. Where you probably will be more involved is with the housing parcel, which again, the CR wouldn't be on that, but it's adjacent.
Sure.
And they'll have their plans, and obviously they're working, within the ORAD, as much as possible, but, I'm sure there will be future business before the contract.
So like a good summary is they've already come to the commission and got an order of resource area delineation, kind of locking in where the wetlands are and the commission's understanding where the wetlands are. Now they're coming to establish a conservation restriction and get the commission to join in on that, which basically chops off a part of the parcel to not be developed in the future unless there's some allowable projects, little things. And then the last piece most likely is that they'll come back to the commission again for the housing project, the actual construction project that likely might have impacts to jurisdictional areas. So that they'll be back in the future for that. So those are it's confusing because there's multiple things that we're dealing with, but this one, it's like we would be a partner in that sense.
But we wouldn't own the CR on the housing parcel, so there's no conflict.
Exactly, yeah. You wouldn't own that.
And then there is kind of two approvals just related to the conservation line. There is one, whether you want to be a co-holder on it, but then also just the city signing off on the CR eventually once the state puts its stamp of approval on it and they approve us for local signatures. We'll have to come back to the city for that. So, yeah. So you will absolutely, see the CR one way or the other. Be signing off, hopefully.
And CPA money will be used for the housing portion of it and probably for open space money.
No, honestly not. Again, we've cleared all the money that we need for the conservation land right now. So CPA money right now is just going to go for the acquisition of the housing parcel and then also to support just the housing itself.
Sure, okay.
But again, down the road, we're hoping this is going to be just a thriving example and everyone's going to want to be involved with it. So why preclude the city's involvement in something substantial down the road if it's just literally kind of signing it off,
Sounds good to me.
The concept is fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fine. Well, thank you very much for considering it again, and I'm happy to come back at a future time. Just let me know.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted. I'll talk to Jeff and see if he gets a letter, maybe he can come, whatever. But yeah, hopefully then we'll have the full permission and we can just sign it then. That's what I would see. So
and again, I think for that, I don't even think needs to be any signature for just being involved. I mean, the CR review process with the state takes months and months. So just knowing, in concept that you support being a co-holder of the restriction would just move that forward and then, look over the draft and make sure you're fine with it.
Cool.
So it's kind of what involvement you'd like at what level if you do want to be involved.
Cool.
Excellent.
Yeah. So I'll be in touch. Yeah.
Well, thank you all very much.
All right, thanks.
Have a nice
Yeah,
too.
nice to meet you.
Thanks. Yeah. Have a nice night.
Thanks, guys.
No problem. Okay.
All right, back on normal agenda.
There's nobody online anymore.
Nope.
So request for certificate of compliance, I would say, is next.
Yep. So this first one is for the pump house. I don't know if you want to read the thing. TP file number 151302 for the pump house demolition. At the last meeting, the commission had determined that they would want to get in lieu of as-built because the described difficulty in getting the as-built that's listed on the order as being required for the certificate of compliance. The funding for that is gone. The contractor is gone. We haven't gotten that. The commission requested that the city engineer potentially provide confirmation, like
Like
a
a letter
letter
or
or
something,
something,
yeah,
yeah, saying that
yes.
like he's reviewed what's there compared to what the plan was, and it looks correct and is in compliance with what was originally permitted. I don't have that yet. But I've been in communication with the city engineer, and he's willing to do it. So it's more just when he can produce that. So I don't think it's ready to be voted on. Two other things that the commission asked about last meeting was confirmation that the area was seeded and what the seed mix was. And I was able to get a slip from the original process of what the seed mix was. And then it was seeded. And then the other piece was in the construction notes, there was a possible notice about a change where they were going to use flowable fill for a water intake pipe, and that was determined to not be a feasible way to deal with that pipe, because I think my understanding from the notes was that they couldn't find the outlet to that, and they didn't want to
Dump the
Yeah.
pond with.
flowable fill. So they changed the design to some degree to like not do that anymore. And what I got from the city procurement officer was like a change request document explaining that they were just going to cap the pad with these concrete slabs over the pad. And that explained what the change was, as far as I understand it.
That's what was done.
And that's what was done. So, and then the city engineer would confirm that was what was done. So,
So maybe if we just get the letter,
Yeah.
we're clean.
that's what I'm hoping for.
I went
Yeah.
to the side, it looks pretty stable. You can see where people walk down.
Yeah.
This is an narrow trail down where all the fisher people
I
are
think people go fishing.
trampling down there.
Yeah.
But there still was a plastic mesh that was buried in there, which was probably help holding things together.
I can see that
Never
too.
break down. It was a nylon looking material, but
Yeah.
you couldn't see it unless you're really looking for it.
Right. I saw that too. So like basically what happened, I think, is they seeded it and then they put erosion control blanket over it, and the blanket netting is still there.
Mhm.
But because it's wintertime, I can't really see how well it grew back, but we haven't experienced any erosion there. But there's the path where people are just walking. It's never going to
But the
grow in.
ones that
So
were there after construction, those are all gone. They're
Yeah.
all filled in. So
Yeah.
it looked like it was in pretty stable shape.
Yeah.
So I think we just get the letter, we can nail that one down pretty easily.
Cool.
And
Yeah.
if we have them remove that plastic lid?
I don't think it'd be advisable.
I would just leave it there since it's gonna disappear at some point.
Yeah, but it's gonna go into the water.
Ideally, we typically try to request that they use like a biodegradable erosion control netting. That's what we usually talk about, but it doesn't seem like that's
Doesn't
what
look
happened
like
this
that's what
time.
this is. It
but-
looks like it's a,
Yeah, but removing it can be pretty destructive in its own way. So in terms of like the vegetation that's growing through it might get like damaged. We can talk about it next meeting maybe, because maybe Julie has experience with how to deal with that. But yeah, probably it'll be just to stay, which I get what you're saying, Sarah, for sure. But
There's so
yeah.
much microplastic in all the water right now.
Mhm, mhm.
If we could pull it out before the vegetation grew back.
it's already going through some of it, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's a good question. I mean, yeah.
Nothing's gonna change in 2 weeks, so we can.
Yeah.
We can talk about it next meeting. And then item B, which was for the River Street.
Yeah. So this one is the one that they did that regrading to fill in potholes and things, like kind of essentially just maintenance on that existing road.
Mhm.
That's a gravel road. And then since then, we've established the bundled order, and which includes this maintenance as like work category
So this
2.
would never have been an issue if we had the other.
Yep. And the thing of it is that we kind of used like a boilerplate for that permit, I guess, when I was reading it. And it also calls for as-built, but like the as-built would just show that the road is still there. It's just last
Yeah,
meeting, we
it
seemed to
is.
determine that that wasn't necessary. But Dan Butcher brought up a good point that like we're supposed to do a site visit. So I did the site visit. I actually have the pictures here if you want to see them, or I can pull them up. But it basically it's a road.
It's fine.
So
It's the place.
yeah, nothing looked like they made a new part of the road. That's what we'd be looking for,
Right,
is
right.
like, whoa, they did something
But it's
different.
gonna have a problem again in the future. It always does. So it's just.
Yeah.
a matter of when we go.
So potentially the commission could issue a certificate of compliance tonight if wanted to, because we have a quorum.
Right.
But that's up to you guys if you want to do. There's not a rush necessarily
No,
to get it done.
Is
So
everyone comfortable with that tonight?
I'm comfortable,
So
yeah.
I want to make a motion on that.
Okay, I'll move that we issue a certificate of compliance to the city of Easthampton for its maintenance activities, milling and pothole control on River Street.
Is there a second?
Second.
Right. Roll call, Commissioner Carr,
Aye.
Commissioner August,
Aye.
Commissioner Weeks. Aye. Okay, motion carries.
and actually, I think I have the form. If you guys want to sign.
And
I don't know if anyone wants to see the site visit pictures. I have them.
I've been down there, so it's pretty good.
Is it just a picture of a pothole building?
Essentially, yes. I mean, because here's the thing. This pothole fill work happened a long time ago. It happened in like 2021. So potholes reformed since then, and they've done maintenance since then, probably like once a year, under the bundle order. Because almost right after we got this in, and they did the first treatment, the bundled order was finished.
The order was
And
done.
they were able to do the future ones under. But it's all gravel, as you can see this there, and it's right in flood. It gets flooded all the time, and like it's just,
Yeah, it looks like they're gonna need to do.
they're probably gonna need to do it again. Yeah.
It's just a continuous thing.
Mhm.
It's underwater half the time.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And who seconded? Was it you, Deb? Or was it? Okay, cool. Got it.
Just go back to Cassie.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, you can just put it on that. Stack it up there. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
All set.
Cool.
All right,
Yes.
enforcement actions. You have 37 South Street highlighted.
And that's just a reminder that I'm going to set up a site visit in the spring.
Nothing-
So,
nothing
yeah, and
we talked about.
that folder, if anyone wants to look in there, you can kind of see the timeline. The minutes, I feel like when I explained it at the last meeting, it was like pretty confusing because it's just kind of like going through it. But in the minutes, I wrote it out more clearly of what the violation was and what's outstanding. So if anyone wants to take a look at that might be a good way to understand. Yep. And then nothing, the next one would be Loudville.
Yeah, so you have Loudville highlighted.
Again, site visit in the spring. I was there, they ended up not coming to this meeting, but hopefully in a future meeting, they'll come to explain the current status of the project. It might be more related to the actual project, not necessarily the enforcement.
Okay.
But so that maybe next meeting they'll come and talk about it. They can come whenever they want, but they're getting to a place where they want to get a certificate of compliance for the project. The commission needs to think about how this factors into issuing such a certificate of compliance. If you can or can't, or maybe do a partial or whatever. We don't have to get into it right now.
Did you hear back from the woman at your house?
So-
No, I haven't heard back from her. That was the other thing I was going to say. I haven't heard back from her yet. She responded to one of my emails saying that she was interested to talk. So I'm not ready to let it go yet but I think that she's probably just really busy again. So I've left a couple messages and emailed again, and I'm just going to do that a little more until you guys are like, all right, just stop. But I don't think we should stop yet.
Seems to really want to hear.
Yeah.
And wouldn't we want to wait until the vegetation grows back in the area, the enforcement area, before we issue a certificate?
That's what I think you should prepare to
Yeah.
think about when they do come to a request for one. That's kind of just trying to give you don't have to make a decision right now.
Yeah, we'll
It's
probably
just,
want to see some kind of growth on that area.
Yeah.
see what it
Yeah,
really
we
looks
can
like.
tell them not to come to a meeting for a while.
well, yeah, we could do that. I mean, they can come anytime. It's always on the agenda.
Sure.
But yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah. Yep, I do.
I
So,
mean, just for their
I mean, just for our own noodling, when in the spring, do we think there'd be enough vegetation growth that would be worthwhile to go do this site visit? I mean, do we need to wait until May?
that's a good question.
Things will be poking up in March, maybe, but
with
what would convince us?
I mean, it'll be guys your decision. Like we can do a site visit anytime we want
Sure,
because we
yeah.
have the order. So
Right.
probably when I was thinking like in March to April, I'd start talking to them like, hey, this is, hopefully before then we can discuss what is needed,
Yep.
what the commission's going to want to see, and then make a plan of like, I'll be talking to them about like, let's start planning when we're going to do this site visit. And then
Okay.
if we happen to schedule it in May and you go out there and you're like, it's not good enough yet, then we can wait until it is good enough. So,
So March, it'll be a year.
right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, mhm,
Yeah.
exactly. I think that's right. Yeah.
Deeds property, you know that it changed hands.
Yep. So I just wanted to put a note that we want to do a site visit in the spring.
Right.
They've it changing hands doesn't matter. It's just that now the new property owner kind of owns the enforcement, as it were.
It says, you say here you have new contact information for them. So.
Yeah, because they've been going through a permitting process with the planning board, so we have their info.
Okay.
So we just need to set the date and all that fun stuff. So
And you just went to see the ferns?
yeah. So Dietz told us that he planted the ferns, so we just need to confirm that like they survived or see how things are growing back, and the commission can make a decision if it's sufficient or if you're like, nope, we want you to do more. So we can make a call based on what we see out there, I guess.
So the next one highlighted is H, which we just talked about, the pump house.
Yep. So we just did the pump house. Now we're on project updates. The gravel milling, we just closed that out. Loudville, same story. 50 Florence, we took that out of order. And I'm ready for general business if you guys are.
There's no open space. I think.
Again, also waiting to the spring.
Okay, let's move to the general business. Okay. I'm not happy with some of the general business, but we'll get to that.
No, me too. So, yeah, first thing's minutes. Let's see them.
Commissioner August has reviewed them and approved.
Yes.
Okay.
They look good.
Cool. So I move that we accept the minutes from the January 22nd meeting.
Is there a second?
With the two typo sections.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are they good? Yeah.
They're still in there.
They are? Oh, I'm sorry. You know what?
Scoot. instead of ask.
So you also found some. I appreciate that. I will print that out. I didn't print out the new one. I'm realizing. I got your email after I printed it out. So I apologize for that. I'll get a new one. So there were two other typos that I need to incorporate. Yeah. Thank you.
We're good.
Yeah.
Motion to approve the minutes with the changes.
I think we have a motion already, so
Second.
you can second. Okay. Roll call, Commissioner Carr,
Aye.
Commissioner August, and Commissioner Weeks. Aye. Motion carries.
So there's general business you don't want to get to.
Well, we already did B, which is Kestrel Land Trust. And the ordinance, I can do a quick update for that. The next meeting is, correct me if I'm wrong. I have it on here, the 20th February.
So Tuesday.
I think it should be a Tuesday. Yeah. Yep. So that's our next meeting, but we're still working our way through it. But hopefully when we get a good solid draft of it's clean, then we can come back to everybody and kind of explain it and go from there. But yeah, it's just, we're working our way. Next thing that isn't there, so there's two more items that aren't on the agenda, but it's important to talk about them, just kind of as general business. And the first one would be we received a new forest cutting plan for a property off at the end of Groveland Street, which I can pull it up on the screen here. Hold on just a second. So there's two things to consider. There's the application and then the mass mapper. But basically, when the commission receives a forest cutting plan, this is an application that they are notifying us about, but it's not an application to us. We don't issue the permit, we don't deny the permit, but DCR reviews the permit and issues it or not.
But they're just required to notify us.
And they're required to notify us. And so now that we've received it, we have 10 days to submit comments to DCR for their consideration. And so the forestry activity itself is exempt under the Wetlands Protection Act as an agricultural activity. And so that's why it goes to DCR for their review, even though there's wetlands in the area. And so, what was I going to say? So because there's 10 days, we have our meeting tonight. I got it today. The 10th day will be our next meeting on the 26th.
Okay.
So I wanted to start the discussion today so that I can get a good idea of what it would be. But if you guys think of other comments, you can email me and send me your thoughts. But the other way to submit comments would be directly to John Libby, who's the regional service forester. But I would recommend that if you do call him, you would talk to him as a resident and not as a representative of the Conservation Commission, if that makes sense.
How do you get 10 days in 2 weeks? That's 14 days.
Business days. Yeah. So I assume the worst and assume that it's business days.
Yeah.
And so we can hopefully make it to them. But so my solution then was to talk about it tonight, but then I can put it on the agenda for the next meeting if anybody has any other comments that they want to put in at that day as well. And then it will have been in like the agenda beforehand, if that
Would
makes
it
sense.
be within your, workload and everything you've got doing to draft up some comments? So
Yeah.
that, hopefully it's ready to go.
Definitely.
Because I think we should definitely comment on and ask them to avoid, impacts or to minimize impacts to, what is it, ephemeral wetlands.
Yeah.
Can you show us, like, on this map, you said the end of Groveland Street.
Well, actually, if it's easier, I'll put it on the TV and you have to lean over.
Yeah.
So hold on just a second. Let me do that. But I know what you're talking about. So let's do that
They have
first.
descriptions in here of how they're gonna clean up the areas and reseed and things like that, so there's some, things in here, which is, looks like the normal things you put in the tree cutting.
So hold on. So,
Could I say that?
oh yeah.
I'll recuse myself from voting, or
Voting, because
would I
there's,
may I ask questions?
I'm gonna say yes, that you can ask questions,
You're a concerned citizen.
right, as a concerned citizen. But there's nothing for us to vote on anyway, so. But, I've been on the site and passed for other reasons, so I'm a little familiar with some of it.
So basically, I came up with some preliminary comments that you guys can consider. The first being that the property is identified as having a number of potential vernal pools. They're not certified vernal pools.
Can you just show us with your,
Please,
on
yes.
your, where they would be coming?
That's the other piece. So this is Groveland Street.
Yeah.
And then from what I'm interpreting from the plan that was submitted is that they will install a road up here and then they'll be cutting up in this area behind here. But it's honestly, it's a little hard for me to tell because the map, and I can show you that here in a second, is like kind of confusing. But because they submit a drawn map.
Right.
And so,
You can almost superimpose a map on the real thing.
but you can see here, so it has Groveland Street, but doesn't show the street, the paver street that's above it, or the one that kind of extends perpendicular to Groveland Street. So it's hard to like reference how far over it's going. It's not in relation to the rest of the parcel. I think that these dashed lines, they're going to cut down south of Groveland Street, the end of Groveland, out across up to this area. Then they're going to make a path up this way and cut this area back up to whichever wetland this is. And the out means they're not cutting there. Then they're going to go up here and cut to that corner of the parcel. And they're going to go this way and cut these areas.
We'll go back to the map.
Yep, the mass mapper one.
Sure, the
Yeah,
mass mapper
What
one.
are those WH2 and 3 mean?
those are the wetland areas. So the wetland two, three. There's 1 is down here, 2 is right here, 3 is right here. They don't number this one, but this is ideal in theory one.
There is another street.
Yep.
It
So
comes up off of Groveland and goes up before the end of Groveland.
mhm.
There's even some culverts that you cross with water running through them, right?
I've never seen the
Okay.
back, but if that is the very end of the street, where the G is.
That's my understanding.
If you go to your right and you go up, that's another extension of another street,
Mhm.
which isn't on here.
Right. So basically, my suggestion of a comment would be noting that like it might not be clear where the wetlands are, just because there's a number of these pockets of them and potential vernal pools, and we have never had a formal wetlands delineation
But
done
they're
there.
exempt anyways, right? So it
Well,
doesn't-
Yeah, the only thing that the commission can comment on is whether or not they think there may be more wetlands. That's like one of the things that we're allowed to comment on. Wouldn't necessarily stop the project from happening. It's just like, that's what we can say. It's like, it might be different than what you're seeing out there. The commission also can request that we do a site visit, but because I can't do a wetlands delineation, I don't know how fruitful that would be. More just saying like, hey, yeah, I don't know. And kind of
So
would be
even
the same
if there
thing.
was a wetlands delineation, they're still allowed to do it because it's agricultural,
Yes.
even though it's.
Can they provide a better map other
Maybe.
than the hand?
Yeah, I guess like that, our comment maybe would prompt DCR to require such a thing.
Like, yeah, like the WH, what is it? 3?
So go back to the,
There's nothing on here that is
Mass
shaped
mapper.
like that.
So yeah, there's the end of Groveland Street here. Oh, oops, there we go. So here's the end of Groveland Street right here.
So if you continue to go left, that is all woods, there's no house.
Yeah,
I know
Yeah.
there's
as you can see here, it's,
there's culverts with water running through those culverts. We're crossing where roads would have been if they had made those roads. There's fire hydrants out there.
oh, really?
Yeah, I
Oh, I
guess
didn't
so.
know that.
So this was considered for residential development
Yes, yeah,
back whenever?
at some point in time, yeah. I believe so. Because I think this was gonna extend and this was gonna be a road up through here.
What can you see that?
What are the little packets of light blue?
These ones right here, these little things,
No, the bigger.
these, yep, those are potentially would be isolated wetlands.
And what is
Those be-
dark blue?
The dark blue is just another way that they show wetlands, but maybe they would be bordering because they connect to this
But I
little
think
stream.
they're not going into this area here. So maybe they could come up with a better map, because it looks like they're going here to this border and then excluding this for
Yeah.
the majority of them, but then,
But the map you're holding in your hand has wetlands on it
right,
that aren't on,
they're not a mass mapper,
right?
right?
So that was going to be like kind of the bulk of my question was like, it's hard to interpret where the wetlands are based off of that drawn plan compared to this, because it doesn't seem to be matching up in terms of they're showing potentially more wetlands than are out there. So that's great if they're accounting for that. Or is it like shifted over and like, it's just the scale is confusing?
I
and-
know that layout would be improper if I explained it.
Well, like I said, Deb, you can call Sean Libby and submit your own
No, I mean,
comments.
Do you
You
guys?
can, yeah, you can do
Or
that
is
too, but if the commission, you can definitely do that. I'm just saying, like, will that change the comment that the commission
It's
makes?
probably not gonna
Because,
change the final answer
but if
here.
you want to do it, you can, but it's just like, right? Because if the crux is that it doesn't match what was
Correct.
submitted. So if that's the thing they were trying to highlight, if the commission wants you to, you're welcome to go through the trouble to explain what you've seen out there.
I guess maybe we should be more concerned with the cleanup after whatever they're gonna do and make sure that gets done the way it's supposed to be done. It just seems like they're gonna be allowed to do it anyways, so.
Or would you require a site visit so you could visually get an orientation
Yeah.
of what you're looking at?
Yeah, the commission can't require anything, but we can request to do a site visit. Yep, we can definitely
Oh,
request one.
Request,
Yeah,
or you have to request from
Yeah.
the site.
yeah. And it'd be ideal if we could do it with the service forester. It's just hard because we only have 10 days, but we can try. But again, the same story. It sounds like the wetlands don't match up what's on the plan. So
Right.
even if we don't do it, I still think we would have a good argument to make the comment that the site visit would support. But I would still try. If the commission wants me to, I'm happy to do that, to try to do a site
They're
visit.
showing wetlands that aren't showing a mass mapper, so I mean,
Right.
they'd be more forward about it than if we were just to look at, if they just drawn the mass mapper thing and said, this is what we're cutting.
So maybe
We wouldn't know any better.
maybe that's the first question is, does the commission want me to try to set up a site visit? I'd be happy to do it.
Yeah, I'd like to come.
Okay.
I'd like
Look
to
around.
I will.
Wear your boots.
Right.
Even though they're exempted under the Mass Wetlands Protection Act, what about like, do they, is it National Heritage?
Mhm.
Critical Habitat Area, do they have to abide by that?
Yeah, so.
They're cutting because all those dead trees around wetlands is
Yep.
gonna affect a lot of homes for a lot of critters.
Well, so that would be the Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program, Priority Habitat for Rare and Endangered Species. That is a layer. As you can
Okay.
see, what's on here are layers.
But that you have that
blobs.
layer turned on.
The layer is turned on here, so that layer does not, this area is not designated priority habitat by Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program. So they don't need to get approval from Natural Heritage because Natural Heritage is not identified as priority habitat for rare and endangered species. The impact to wildlife generally is likely undeniable, but rare and endangered species, it's not meeting the technical parameter for that to
Now we
require.
have to wait till next year when all those critters become rare and endangered because they didn't get paid this year. All those turtles, all the birds. All
But yeah, so it's private property, so they can.
It's not that big of an area compared to some of the other tree cutting, things that occur around here, but it is a pretty wet area.
I mean,
But so the commission's job, essentially,
make comments,
what's that?
make comments.
To make comments, but even so, it's to review it in relation to, Wetlands Protection Act and what they're empowered to do through the Wetlands Protection Act. And in this instance, it's the comments, but what I was trying to say was that the comment, maybe a really good comment, like we just discussed, would be talking about where the wetlands may or may not be and how it seems like maybe there's a discrepancy there. Then my next comment would be, and then just specifically highlighting the potential vernal pools that they're not certified, but maybe that's something that DCR can consider as well. And let me see what
We
my
should
other
make a
comments.
comment about wildlife.
We certainly can. Yeah, the commission can definitely do that.
What are all those purple lines?
Those are the property lines that they have carved off parcels. They own all of them still, is my understanding.
It's all
But,
under
yeah.
ownership, but it was all carved up as if they were gonna subdivide everything.
Yeah, and then
There's roads, there's paper roads in there that don't.
and then they
don't
probably
exist.
found out that they couldn't.
Well, so that's the other piece. So if they were going to build something, that would need a different permit with us, with the Conservation Commission. This is just for the forest
wet in
cutting.
there. The whole thing's a buffer zone. Probably.
Seems probably really hard to develop, yeah.
And that's probably one of the reasons why it didn't get developed.
So let me just quickly, the other comments that I had recommended. The first one was about the wetlands delineations and the IVWs, and are they truly IVWs? Are they maybe connected in some way? So on and so forth. Also, I wanted to note to them that there's likely a great public interest for this project, just because of the proximity to 50 Florence Road, which is to the north.
Sure.
And then the Sierra Vista project that recently got approved, it's like across the street. And then, or Route 10, right across Route 10. And then it's a residential neighborhood where, in theory, the trucks would need to enter and exit from. If this is where they're proposing to start the process, then I would assume they would need to drive through this neighborhood.
They
to
don't
get
know
the-
what other access there is.
Yep. So I wanted to highlight that piece for DCR to consider.
Sure.
And then the last thing was potentially future development. So we haven't received any permits or applications for future development there. As far as I understand it from planning board, rest of the planning department, that's the case as well. But it has been subdivided in this way through all these little different parcels. So it's just something to note. But I don't know that it's necessarily disallowed that they do a forest cutting plan before developing. But I think it's something that would be important for them to be aware of. So it might become immediately apparent to them because you can see how the parcels are all
Sure.
chopped up, but I think it'd be worth noting.
This is
don't-
interesting history.
Yeah, I know. So those are my three big pieces, but I guess then the question is, do you agree with those pieces? And then are there more things you want me to add? Sounds like the wildlife, just a note about the amount of impact to wildlife. We can certainly always do that. Is there anything else?
Does DCR have the authority to ask them to have a forest management plan
I don't know.
with a forester?
I mean, the permit will be is a forest cutting plan.
Right.
I don't know that they would require, I haven't heard that they would require
Repairs
that.
of the area also
Yeah.
that have to
Right.
repair up to.
But that's not the
But
same.
reading the
thing.
document that you
Same.
sent out, there was a distinction. This is a project which is a short-term project just for generating money
Mhm.
from the cutting. And the distinction box that wasn't checked was that this is a forest management project with the intent of improving the health of the forest. So that box wasn't checked.
So you're talking about this form here? Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And I think on the, second page or something was, there you go. They ST, short-term harvest, was checked, and not LT, long-term harvest.
And so, yeah, it's kind of, yep, your short-term harvest right here. And so it's kind of confusing, but all these sections, like probably the part that's pretty relevant to the commission is harvesting in wetlands, this box here, stream crossings, they're not proposing any new stream crossings, wetland crossings, they're not proposing any wetland crossings, filter strip, they do propose one filter strip, and then VA. Okay, what does VA stand for? Down at the bottom here, underneath.
That isn't like acronym.
Yeah, where is that?
Yeah, I missed that.
I couldn't find it.
Oh, it might be like variable, so because it's either 50 feet, 100 feet, or VA. So that's just, it's supposed to be like the width. So maybe it's variable. And then for harvesting in wetlands, they have 3. Harvest wetland 1, 2, 3, and they're proposing WP. And that's the forest type. So forest type,
Well, if you go back to your.
forest type's
Mass
white
mapper
pine.
Map, aren't they crossing, a stream or something there?
Yeah, let's go back. Let's see. See how it matches.
Through it.
Well, this is the thing. It's hard to tell how the mass mapper lines up with the,
Well, they acknowledged they're doing stream crossings, because they said they would use existing culverts.
mm-hmm. Oh, I see.
So I guess if they're crossing on the culverts, then they're not necessarily crossing, if they're crossing on a road, they're not doing a stream crossing then.
Yeah, so that if there was stream crossings indicated in here, it would mean that they would need to build a temporary crossing. But if they're using something that exists,
There's concrete
Yeah.
tubes underneath the roads in
Okay.
places, so.
so maybe that's why it makes sense then on the
It says streams
application.
will be crossed at the existing culverts along the existing road.
Okay,
So that's why they don't have to put stream, crossings box check out because they're really one on a road.
mm-hmm.
So does this mean DCR has already okayed it?
Nope,
They're
we have
using
received the application.
Oh, I see.
And so the way that you can tell actually is that this piece at the top, not filled in. That's where DCR fills it in. They give it their number and they say when they can start, all that good stuff. And then at the very end, there is no big orange page that has WP, and that means that's the permit essentially. And you would see that also on the site once it was approved. So that's the way that you can tell that this is just the application and not the plan, the permit that DCR is going to issue.
So does that mean they will listen to public and conservation comments?
It's their discretion how they take in the comments and deal with them. But like I said, we have an explicit ability to issue comments to them. We have these 10 days to do it. For the public, I'm not really sure what the process is, but Sean Libby has been very forthcoming in being like, you can give my number to anybody can call, talk to him. So who's the service
To be
force?
clear, you said the same with it being over 25,000 square, whatever board feet is the threshold for them to have to submit this application to DCR. The DCR then has to issue a permit for them to do it, and if DCR has the right to deny the permit for some reason,
That's my understanding. I think that that's how it works. Yeah.
it's not just a formality.
Yeah, because why? Like it would be good to have a record, I suppose. But my understanding is that DCR can make recommendations or make them do it certain ways to make sure it's compliant with their regulations and the Wetland Protection Act. But
Does that say effective date 3/15/16?
But the effective date
So-
of the form,
that's when the form was created by DCR.
Oh, I see.
Yep, that's when the form was created. So that you'll see that date on every single one. Yeah. In terms of what DCR is able to do and how they're able to manipulate these projects, I don't do these permits, so I don't really know. But that's my understanding. That's why it would make sense for us to be even able to submit comments, is because it could help them make their decisions and how they condition it, whatever that
well,
is.
there's a lot of environmental legislation out there that lets you make all the comments you want and make all the recommendations you want. At the end of the day, people can take them.
Yeah, and basically we are governed by the laws, so it's not our opinion, it's
Yeah.
it's the law, so.
So this hasn't even been, so this has been presented already?
It was, my understanding, it was simultaneously submitted to us and DCR.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, it seems good to get the map straight. I would like a comment on wildlife. And
And your other three comments, I'm good with
Comments
those.
on
Yeah,
traffic, trucks, Groveland Street.
yeah, that's it. If that's their access point, it's gonna be a little messy dragging the mud and trucks through there.
Yeah.
And I guess otherwise I'll just wait for him.
You can,
Mr. Libby.
yes.
Is his email in here somewhere?
Probably not, because this is just the application, but I can send that to anybody who wants it.
Great.
Yeah, that's easy to send, so make a note.
And who is Julie Call? Is she the wife?
I assume it's the daughter of Bernie, but I don't know, don't quote me on that.
Yeah, it's listed here as the landowner.
The goal.
Yes, I just wasn't sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is, yes.
Yeah, Julie's listed as the landowner.
So it could be his
Yeah.
daughter, I'm not sure, it could be his wife, I don't know.
Okay. Okay, so what
It is his wife, Bernie's wife.
Okay.
And you were gonna ask about possibly a site visit for conservation.
So my plan tomorrow would be to call Sean, Libby, myself, the service forester, our regional service forester, and kind of explain what comments we're likely going to submit, just get talk to him about it, set up a site visit, and then I'll let you all know about whatever we land on for that.
Yes.
And then I'm also going to reach out to Julie and Dan, make sure they don't have any other comments they want me to add. And then, basically probably plan to just submit the comments probably before the 26th if we can. I think that if we have more after on the 26th, then I can submit more then as well. But yeah, just to kind of get the ball rolling on that. And then I'll share with you all Sean's contact information as well.
And 10 days is for everyone, including the public.
That I don't know. Just for the Conservation Commission. I only know about what's for us. So that'd be a good question for Sean if anyone wanted to ask it.
What was the name of the Mr. Gall who's next to Loudville? Which one?
Oh, I know. I think Edward. I think that was Eddie Gall.
Ed Gall's was
16
Bernie's brother.
67
Bernie's
Loudville.
passed away, Ed Gall, is his brother, he lives on Loudville. All right, bad news.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So then the last one, if you guys are ready. And if anybody thinks of other comments, just you can email me. That's fine.
There's
So-
bad news.
Yeah. So the bad news is that Jeff Bagg, my supervisor, has accepted a new position.
No.
So he's going to leave.
When is he leaving and where is he going?
I believe his last day is March 5th. So and he's going to go work for BSC Group. And I think it's important to say, no, it wasn't like because of a problem. There's no ill will. Like he's leaving on really good terms. But it's just a really good opportunity for him.
Yeah.
So BSC Group is a private consultant.
Can I have a motion to deny it?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, let's deny it and not let him
Do
go.
we know who the new site engineer is going to be at?
Yeah.
No,
And
ma'am.
will we like them?
I think we will. I trust the judgment of HR and the mayor, and like it'll be a good person. I don't doubt it for a second. But it's worth noting in that like that's my supervisor, right? So they kind of help me determine if there's other side projects, like how they kind of dictate how that time goes. I mean, I answer to you guys in terms of the Conservation Commission, certainly. But it can be impactful in that way for me and how I function. And then the other factor is that Jeff was kind of like the lead person on some projects like 96 East Street, the stormwater permit.
Yeah.
But I'm working with him to get those like kind of closed out probably, hopefully before he leaves.
Closed up as best
Yeah.
we can.
Or have something that's just like, here's the final memo and like know where to go from there, if that makes sense.
Or you can't leave.
Yeah,
You can't
right,
leave.
exactly, exactly.
And is BSC group, is it local? I mean, is he?
It looks like they've got some offices all over, Cape Cod, Boston, Worcester, Andover,
Yeah, I think
Glastonbury, Connecticut, Manchester, New Hampshire.
my understanding is
Dozens of
that
companies.
he'll be like in the Worcester office,
Okay.
but then he can work from home and like, so that's a great situation for him. But also, I think he had mentioned something like they're looking to expand out this way a little
Sure,
more, so he
okay.
could help with that or, whatever. But
Right.
yeah, probably the Worcester office would be his home base, I would
Yeah.
guess. But yeah, and that was the other piece of how it's impactful. He gives us a lot of like advice on stuff sometimes, like procedurally, like with the CR and things like that.
Right, yes.
And so, my understanding is that he's still going to be available for like 10 hours a week for some period of time after his last day, but I don't know how long that will be for.
Right.
And I'm sure his time will be like at a premium. So we might be like fighting amongst others, trying to get our.
We have to stand in line.
Yeah, but so it's not all going to be like nothing. I think it's important to know. So
How long has he been working as the city planner?
I want to say like 6 years.
Yeah, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. He started before me, but not from like super long before me, I guess. So,
Right.
which is interesting. But yeah. Yep. But he will be missed. He's awesome. So. Yep. But I wish him well. But if you guys have any other questions about it, just let me know. I can ask him about it before. But that's my general understanding of how
Can
that
you
is.
say to HR when you're hiring this new engineer, this is a role that he's played that's essential to our commission? Can you try to look for someone that has?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think they did a
Yeah.
pretty good job finding Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point, Sarah.
Jess
Yeah.
Allen was before him, and Jess was really good also. And just similar thing when it's a private practice, basically.
Yeah, that's
But
it.
they could just hire someone who's just an
Well, Jeff isn't an engineer. He's a city planner,
Right.
so he has a planning degree. So he doesn't really do engineering, and I wouldn't expect the next person to have an engineering capability. That'd be cool if they did, but they probably wouldn't serve in that capacity. It's more just understanding the law of like
Right.
planning and zoning, which is like a whole other thing.
right.
But and just like project management and grant writing. But that being said, in terms of like input towards the hiring process, I'll be on the lookout for that if they solicit it / allow it from us. And then my hope is that, there'll be a whole process of whoever they do select of like meeting them and getting to know and like figuring it, kind of like, I don't know if that makes sense, but it's a good point. Like if we can, we should. So
Does Jamie then step up?
the position is open. So anyone can apply. Yeah. So
She's here, is she gonna help?
that's a good question. I mean, I think like she shouldn't do things when not.
She's busy already.
Yeah. So Jamie's she's the senior planner. So the way the office is set up, I'm realizing, probably I've never told any of this before. Jeff Bagg is the director of planning. Then there's Jamie Webb, who's senior planner. Then there's Dylan Maxfield, who's associate planner. And then I'm in the planning department, but I'm the conservation agent.
Right.
And then there's also Pasqualina Azzarello, who is the city arts coordinator. So like her and I are a little like separate, but are certainly like supervised by the director. But yeah, I in terms of we are all of us going to pick up some of the projects that he's working on to kind of hold them. So Jamie isn't going to become the de facto director, and it just in the interim because she's not being compensated in that way and that's on her job description, right? So it would have to be something. Maybe they can work something out that would make that an appropriate setup, but it would have to be established. And as far as I know, it hasn't been yet. So the position open, she might apply for it. That'd be cool.
Sounds like
So,
this is kind of new anyways, right?
yeah. So we'll see. But
Let us know when he or she can start accepting grants.
okay. Oh Lord, I will definitely keep you all posted because it's kind of like but really things will really change March 5th. That's the last day. So.
That's not very
But-
far, right?
In theory, it won't really impact our operations too much. Like I feel prepared to take on what we need to do and keep doing how we've been doing it. So, yeah. But yeah.
There's a whole other side that's not even us that he's dealing with.
Oh, yeah.
The planning department and everything, so,
Oh yeah, we're just one little piece. So,
yeah.
planning board, zoning board, historical commission.
Anything
Projects.
else?
That is it.
That's it?
That's all I
Motion
got.
to adjourn.
Got a second? All right, so roll call. Commissioner Weeks,
Aye.
Commissioner August,
Aye.
Commissioner Carr.
Hi.
Motion carries.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.